Now going ahead to question number 12. तो क्वेश्चन नंबर 12 में क्या है? सृष्टि acquired valuable diamond at a very low price by avoidable contract under the provisions of the Indian Contract Act 1872. The avoidable contract was not rescinded. Srushti pledged the diamond with Mr. VK. Is this a valid pledge under the Indian Contract Act 1872? Now guys, before I come to the special provisions regarding pledge, I would first like to discuss that there is a similar case of this type by the name Phillips versus Brooks that I did it in fraud section in foundation. मुझे याद है कि आप लोग को याद नहीं होगा, and I feel that you guys won't be recollecting it, so let me rush through that case. And that was to be studied along with a case known as Lake versus Simmons. The two cases look very similar but the outcome is very different. मैं जल्दी से आपको फिलिप्स वर्सेस ब्रुक्स करा देता हूँ. Now let us say sir goes to a shop, right? शॉप का नाम क्या रखेंगे? हेमंत ज्वेलर्स. हेमंत ज्वेलर्स, राइट. सर गोज टू अ शॉप और सर ने क्या प्रबंध किया इस बार कि he has taken a very expensive car, right, from his friend. सब कुछ खुद, मेरा कुछ नहीं है भाई, राइट. तो मासेराटी की कार ले ली मैंने, किसी फ्रेंड की, किसी के अलान शॉन की वॉच ले ली, राइट. So I've taken all expensive products from different people and walked into a showroom such that the owner stood up and directly walked to me and said, sir, can I help you? Right? ओनर खुद, सेल्स वेल स्टाफ नहीं, बिकॉज उनको देखकर ही लग रहा है कि छोटा बड़ा कुबेर तो मैं यही हूँ, राइट. सो कैरिंग अ वर्टू मोबाइल कॉस्टिंग समथिंग अराउंड 13-14 लाख रुपीज. सो सारा का सारा प्रबंध करके गया था टू मेक द अदर पर्सन बिलीव दैट आई एम ओवर रिच, राइट. देन आई asked for a diamond ring that I want to purchase for myself. So I asked for a diamond ring. I want to purchase for myself. Now, after some selection of very expensive diamond rings, I laid my hands on one of the rings that I wanted to purchase. Right, बड़ा सा solitaire diamond ring that I wanted to purchase, and that was the price of the diamond ring was, let us say, something around rupees 75 lakhs, right. And this guy Hemant is so excited that such a rich person has turned up to our showroom, right. Must be some millionaire, billionaire, राइट. लेकिन ऐसा कुछ था नहीं, बेचारे का नसीब खराब था. सो आई वेंट ओवर देयर एंड देन आई से आई डोंट हैव द चेंज, पैसे नहीं है कैश में. सो आई ऑफर्ड हिम अ चेक, राइट, एंड आई टोल्ड हिम वुड यू अग्री विद अ चेक, एंड हेमंत सेड completely fine. He was so much astounded by my personality, and rather than anything else, the expensive gadgets and stuffs and the clothes that I was carrying, my car, he was so much enthusiastic that he agreed to take a check, right. So Sir signed the check. So मैंने यहाँ साइन कर दिया. Right, Mukesh Ambani करके, and I gave the check to him. The problem was he didn't saw the check also. He kept it on the counter and he gave me the diamond ring. Obviously, first he gave me the diamond ring. He agreed to take the check. He gave me the diamond ring. Later on, I gave him the check, right? But he didn't look at the check, and then he came out to give me that courtesy exit, right? Sir exits. Sir exits. Now the jeweler checks out the bill of exchange or the check that I've given. Then the jeweler checks out the check and finds that person who came to a store was none other than the famous billionaire Mukesh Ambani, right? And he was also wondering कि मुकेश अंबानी जी को चश्मे कहाँ से आ गए, right? But any which ways he was so happy, so excited that he puts the check inside and the check bounces as was expected. Right. So meanwhile, before the check bounces, so that's why I'm just putting it in this orderly manner, right? The event happened, the purchase happened on say 10th of April. Purchase happened on 10th of April, and the sequence of timing was: first I purchased the ring, then I gave the check, then I exited. On this is all on 10th of April, and then Mr. Hemant Jeweler checks out the check later on, right, and finds that the person who came to the shop was Mukesh Ambani, and the check bounces. Obviously, the check is deposited next day, 11th April, and the news of the check bouncing turns up to him on say 15th April. Meanwhile, between these two dates, on 11th April, Sir goes to another guy, right? Mr. Ayush. On 11th April, Sir pledges the ring with Ayush and takes a sum of rupees 50 lakh loan, right, and I abscond, right, मैं भाग जाता हूँ. सो अगर आप यहाँ देखो सीरीज ऑफ इवेंट्स कैसे हो रही है. Now if you notice over here, first of all, did sir try to commit a fraud, right. तो अगर आप फ्रॉड पढ़ोगे तो फ्रॉड मीन्स एंड इंक्लूड्स बहुत बड़ा लिस्ट बनता है. वहाँ बोला जाता है एक्टिव कंसीलमेंट ऑफ फैक्ट, मेकिंग अ फॉल्स स्टेटमेंट विद द नॉलेज ऑफ इट्स फॉल्सिटी, राइट, अ प्रॉमिस मेड विदाउट एन इंटेंशन ऑफ फुलफिलिंग इट. सो अगर आप फ्रॉड के डेफिनेशन में जाओगे तो सर हैज ट्राइड टू कमिट अ फ्रॉड एंड ही कमिटेड अ फ्रॉड, right. Not only did sir try, but he successfully committed a fraud on human dwellers, right. So my point over here is sir tried to commit a fraud. Fraud में contract क्या हो जाता है? It is voidable, right. It's one of my most favorite cases. I don't want to go much deep into this one, right. There was a fraud that was committed by me. Now fraud, अगर आप देखोगे यहाँ फ्रॉड हुआ है. एक बार I would request you to read something known as unilateral mistake, right. Unilateral mistake एक बार पढ़िएगा, काफी कॉम्प्लेक्स सेक्शन है. Unilateral mistake means when one of the parties is under a mistake of fact, then that is termed as a unilateral mistake. Now who is under a unilateral mistake? Mr. Hemant is under a unilateral mistake, right. So sir committed a fraud. The contract is voidable at the option of the aggrieved party. So aggrieved party कौन है? हेमंत इज द aggrieved party. अब यूनिलैटरल मिस्टेक मैंने पढ़ने का क्यों बोला, आपको जरा सा ब्रीफ दे दो. यूनिलैटरल मिस्टेक में द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इज नॉट वॉइड, इट इज रादर वैलिड, बट इट वुड बिकम वॉइड अंडर टू सर्कमस्टांसेस. सो इसमें है ये पूरा का पूरा प्रोविजन किस पे बेस्ड है? फ्रॉड अमाउंटिंग टू यूनिलैटरल मिस्टेक, राइट. सो इफ देयर इज अ केस ऑफ फ्रॉड द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इज वॉइडेबल. बहुत ईजी है. But if it amounts to unilateral mistake, and if the unilateral mistake is with respect to the identity of the person, and the identity of the person is of material importance to the contract, then then the agreement is void ab initio. Or if the unilateral mistake is with respect to the very nature of the contract, then also it is void ab initio, right. तो हाँ, ये 3 बार आपको रिवाइंड करके सुनना पड़ेगा what I'm trying to say. So over here ये उसी में केस आता है. when we do fraud and unilateral mistake साथ में करते हैं तभी ये आएगा. and it's just a wonderful case. इसके साथ Lake versus Simmons is a must read that I would always recommend. Now going ahead, try to put it in brief. In short, यहाँ अगर हम देखें कि sir committed a fraud on Hemant, right, and it amounted to a unilateral mistake, but the unilateral mistake was not regarding the identity. Now what do you mean by unilateral mistake was not regarding the identity? If we see the sequence of things, it very clearly highlights that हेमंत जज का ये रिमार्क था जजमेंट में, बहुत पढ़ने लायक है ये जजमेंट. The jeweler was willing to enter into contract with the person who came to the store irrespective of the person's identity, राइट। जज का जो रिमार्क था वो मैंने ब्रीफ में डाला यहाँ। he said that the jeweler was willing to enter into a contract with the person who came to the store, that is sir, irrespective of the person's identity. Did I came and try to show, indicate directly or indirectly that I'm Mukesh Ambani? The answer is no, right? So over here, fraud amounting to unilateral mistake leading to unilateral mistake with respect to the identity of the person, and the identity of the person being material importance would have made it void ab initio. मुझे पता है बहुत confusing है, 2-3 बार रिवाइंड करके सुनना, right? Then it is void ab initio. But over here it is not void ab initio, as the judge said, my dear friend, Hemant was willing. Did he knew that I'm Mukesh Ambani, or maybe I was trying to pose as Mukesh Ambani? No. I was just trying to pose as some XYZ rich billionaire. Yes, I committed a fraud. Did that amount to unilateral mistake? Yes. Was it regarding the identity? Did I try to pretend an identity? Yes. But was identity of material importance? The answer is no. The identity was not of material importance, because he was interested to sell the product to me under the assumption that I am some very, very, very rich guy. And I created that assumption, great. But my specific identity was not revealed. Whatever identity I was trying to pretend Mukesh Ambani, I was not actually known. I didn't try to put it across to him that I'm Mukesh Ambani or XYZ. I was just trying to pretend as a rich person, which I was successful in doing. So the judge remarked that the identity of the person was not of importance to you, hence it is not void ab initio, it's merely voidable, right? So if it is a voidable contract at the option of the aggrieved party, तो voidable contract का basic rule क्या है? Till the contract is cancelled, it persists as a valid one, right? So till the voidable contract is cancelled, it persists as a valid one, my dear friends, right? ये तो हमने फाउंडेशन में पढ़ा ही है। अब होता क्या है यहाँ, अब सीक्वेंस देख लीजिए। सर आते हैं and he is not revealing his identity by direct or indirect means. Now, without knowing the identity, Mr. Hemant is still interested because he believes that I'm a very rich person. On 10th April, the entire transaction takes place. On 11th April, sir pledges the goods with Ayush, right? Sir pledges the goods with Ayush, right? So ये दो सीक्वेंस हो गया हमारा। अगर आगे हम देखें थोड़ा लेटर ऑन, अब 10th April में ही अगर हम लोग एक बार सीक्वेंस देखने की ट्राई करें, फर्स्ट द डायमंड रिंग इज टेकन, देन सर gives the check, but this lazy fellow, lousy fellow doesn't have a look at the check. देखो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होने के टाइम, once the contract has been agreed upon, the identity was revealed later, the fake identity was revealed later, right? अगर आप यहाँ देखो, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होने का मतलब पैसा देना नहीं है, right? Money has nothing to do with contract, right? कि द पेमेंट ऑफ प्राइस, अगर आप सेल ऑफ गुड्स एक्ट भी पढ़ो, वहां बहुत क्लियरली लिखा गया है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अलग चीज है, डिलीवरी ऑफ गुड्स अलग है, एंड पेमेंट ऑफ प्राइस इज अ थर्ड थिंग ऑल टुगेदर, राइट? सो द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हैड हैपेंड irrespective of the identity. So I took the ring on 10th April. After let us say 15-20 minutes of conversation, I handed over the check, right? And I exit the store, right? Immediately after that, and this guy checks it after another 15-20 minutes. So my identity came into picture later on after the contract has taken place and not before. उसीलिए हम लोग बोलते हैं It's fraud amounting to unilateral mistake with respect to identity, but the identity was not of material importance because the jeweler, I repeat, was ready to enter into a contract with the person who stepped into the showroom, right? irrespective of his identity. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, जब आप यूनिलैटरल मिस्टेक पढ़ोगे तब क्लिक होगा ये अच्छे से. Now all this said and done, right? 15th April को चेक बाउंस होता है, बट बिफोर द चेक बाउंसेस सर हैज ऑलरेडी हैंडेड ओवर द रिंग टू आयुष. और यहाँ हमने क्या लिखा है वॉइडेबल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के लिए? Till the voidable contract is cancelled or avoided, it persists as a valid one, right? So over here the contract 15 को check bounce हुआ and Hemant Jeweler wants to avoid the contract. Forged signature, forged check, सब कुछ forged, right? So Hemant Jeweler wants to avoid the contract. So my question is, can Hemant avoid the contract? The answer is, चलो थोड़ा आगे आंसर देने से पहले. So 15th April को check bounce होता है. Hemant wants to avoid the contract. He goes to the police, reports an FIR stating that such a person took a diamond ring from me, the check is forged, right? So police goes around and tries to trace the ring. The ring is traced with Mr. Ayush. Mr. Ayush has the ring. Now Hemant wants to claim the ring from Ayush. So Hemant says Ayush has to give him the ring. So my question to you is, who will have the ring? Ayush will have the ring or Hemant will have the ring? My answer is Ayush will have the ring. The reason is a valid pledge was created in favor of Ayush. ये कहाँ लिखूँ मैं? यहाँ लिख देता हूँ. A valid pledge was created in favor of Ayush before the voidable contract was cancelled. Right? So valid pledge was created in favor of Ayush before the voidable contract was cancelled. Hence Ayush will have the ring. Right? So Ayush will have the ring. And sorry Mr. Hemant, you can't do anything. Yes, what thing you can do is file a suit on sir, right? So Hemant can file a suit on sir, right? तो अब आते हैं, ये समझ में आ गई बात. तो ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है कि अगर आप ध्यान से पढ़ो मेरी किताब, कौन सी, इंडियन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट 1872. अगर आप फ्रॉड का डिटेल्स पढ़ोगे, सेक्शन 17 में लास्ट में आता है व्हेन अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, लास्ट में एकदम फ्रॉड के एंडिंग में मैंने लिस्ट दिया है, व्हेन अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अंडर फ्रॉड कैन नॉट बी कैंसल्ड, राइट? सो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अंडर फ्रॉड कैन नॉट बी कैंसल्ड व्हेन अ थर्ड पार्टी एक्वायर्स अ राइट इन द प्रॉपर्टी फॉर कंसिडरेशन एंड इन गुड फेथ, right? When a third party acquires a right in the property for consideration and in good faith before the voidable contract is rescinded, then अगर आप बिफोर रिसाइशन के अगर थर्ड पार्टी ने राइट एक्वायर कर लिया, देन द रिसाइशन इज इनवैलिड, यू कैन नॉट कैंसिल इट एंड यू कैन नॉट हैव द गुड्स बैक. एक बार पढ़ना, फिलिप्स वर्सेस ब्रुक्स, मस्ट रीड केस है भाई ये, नेक्स्ट लेवल, बहुत अच्छा, वेरी वेरी गुड, मस्ट केस. नाउ हम प्लेज के बारे में पढ़ रहे थे, जो हमने अभी यहाँ देखा आयुष का, राइट, दैट आयुष वाज द प्लेजी. सो 178A, which is linked to pledge. So I'll come to my answer, which was very much based on this case. Section 178A, right? तो उसके ऊपर एक नोट लिख लेते हैं जल्दी से. When the pledgee has entered into the pledgee has entered into contract to receive goods the pawner ऊपर कौन था सर? The pawner has acquired by means of avoidable contract अगर आप सेक्शन 2I पढ़ोगे वहां लिखा है डेफिनेशन ऑफ voidable contract, right? A contract which is enforceable at the instance of the one party but not at the option of one party but not at the option of other or others, right? Voidable contract, then the pledgee, then the then the then the owner or the seller cannot avoid the contract if the pledge has taken place before such contract is avoided, right? So when the pledgee has entered into a contract to receive goods which the pawner has acquired by means of avoidable contract or avoidable contract, sorry, not avoidable, pledgee has entered when a pledgee has entered into a contract to receive goods which the pawner has acquired by means of avoidable contract, then the owner or the seller cannot avoid the contract if the pledge has taken place before the contract is avoided. यहाँ समझने की ट्राई करते हैं अभी. So pledgee over here is, in our case, Ayush has entered into a contract to receive goods which the pawner यानी the pledger, who is that? Sir, by means of a voidable contract, then the owner seller Hemant Jewelers cannot avoid the contract if the pledge has taken place before such contract is avoided. तो avoid करने का डेट क्या था? 15th April, right? But the pledge has taken place. Pledge कब हो गया था? 11th April को. That's why I like this case so much. Right, directly connects us to section 178. So over here, Ayush will not give the ring to Hemant Jewelers because it is a valid pledge, though the contract is voidable, but before it was cancelled, it persists like a valid one. During such period, Ayush got the ring from Sir, the pawner, the pledger, right? So it cannot be cancelled. What Mr. Hemant Jeweler has the recourse. Hemant can file a suit against Sir for fraud and claim damages from him, right? Or if he still wants the ring, immediately he has to pay the pledgee or the pawnee, Mr. Ayush, the sum, the interest, everything जो सर ने पैसा लिया था. But obviously that would be a raw deal for Hemant to get the ring, his own ring, and he has to pay so much lakhs and lakhs of rupees because this guy has a vested interest in the property. Who? Mr. Ayush. तो सर के ऊपर केस फाइल कर सकता है. So it is now left to the sound judgment of Mr. Hemant as to what he wants to do, right? So that is a very, very interesting case.